Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. This morning, I'm covering last night's speech. President Trump came out and addressed the nation in just under 10 minutes. He talked about the border wall proposal he has for the Democrats. He talked about legislation that he has put together with his team in a package, and he's going to meet, or wants to meet today, with Democrats in the White House. At least he's invited them. Now, he did a couple of good things in this speech, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Now, I know a lot of the hype was he's going to declare a national emergency and use his presidential authority, basically in a suspended constitutional manner, right? In a national emergency, they believe they can do that. Well, he didn't do that. He just came out and basically did a stump speech in front of the world to tell the Democrats what he wants to talk about and to lay the blame at their feet. Right? He did a great job of saying, Schumer, you're a hypocrite. Because before Trump was elected, he wanted border security and a wall. And he pointed out what a bunch of hypocrites they are. And he said, it's up to you guys. You have to do this. Right? Now, the president is the one shutting down the government and the Congress. They all get the blame. But when we look at what they've called for in the past, right, Democrats across the board, including Barry Soetoro, Barack Hussein Obama, right? He called for it when he was a senator. I believe when he was a president, too. Anyways, this whole immigration thing, it used to be that Democrats cared about the country and wanted it protected. Now they want as many new voters as they can get across that border. And to call a wall immoral is asinine. But what do we have? We have politicians. And what are politicians known for doing? Lying. Lying. That's what they do. You can tell a politician is lying when their mouth starts to move. That's how you know. Anyways, what have they been doing lately? They've been calling Trump a liar. Literally calling him a liar. And they dispute every number, every statistic, every citation that comes out of his mouth or anyone else in the administration who speaks publicly. They basically call them liars, claim they've done fact-checking, and I'm not just sticking up for the Trump administration. What I am doing is I'm pointing to the Democrats, who are now socialists, which is that far away from being a communist. Right? Those people are going to call the president a liar when he's only been in office 2 years and they've been in D.C. for decades. Right? They are seriously lying. So, I mean, what does this come down to? It comes down to partisan politics. It comes down to the regular left politics. One side wants to be stupid. The other side wants to be right next to them. Just a little better. Right? Now, if this was something that would have really got my underwear all tingly, it would have been, we're arresting a bunch of bad people tomorrow. Hang on to your hats. If I don't hear from the Democrats by 10 a.m. sharp and have something done by noon, then I'm going to use police power under the president's martial law authority to put the wall up the way I want to build it, not the way they do. Right? So, basically, there wasn't anything in there. And it wasn't really a nothing sandwich, but it was a bit vanilla. It was a bit weak. I expected a little more fire, a little more brimstone. And I don't even want to get into Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They're just ding-dongs. And Senator Graham, I don't care what anyone else said. Right? Clearly the president's the leader of the country. He usually is, whether we like him or not, whether he's Democrat, Republican, black, white, Irish, whatever. It doesn't matter. Usually they're looked at as the leader because it's a single person representing the most. Representing the most. So he's leading and saying, you guys need to step up. Now, he made a concession in his speech. We'll make the rest of the wall out of steel. But there does need to be a wall there. And his analogy, right, of putting walls up, people like Pelosi and Schumer and Feinstein, they put walls up around their house, not because they hate everyone outside, but because they love those that are inside. This is our country, and it would be nice to have that wall there. This is one of those things that I think we should spend money on. I mean, hell, we're going to spend, what, $3 trillion this year? And you're telling me we don't have enough? We don't have $5 billion? Just $5 billion. $5 billion out of $3 trillion. right, to build the wall. We can't reallocate some other dollars from some other program. Now, what's interesting is this is not so much about the wall to me as it is about the shutdown. As a prepper thinking about the shutdown, right, we're starting to get reports that EBT or SNAP cards, welfare credit cards the government gives out, they're starting to not work in certain facilities, certain food chains, certain areas. Right, the reports are sparse. They're not really detailed. They could be bullshit, but I'm sure there's some truth to it. You know, whether it's regular error or not, it doesn't matter. What was interesting, though, is that those reports also include some details about people with EBT cards protesting those stores. Why? If the card's being refused by the system, why protest that store? Unless there's something else going on, which is certain stores are saying we're not going to take them while the government is shut down. A form of tax protest, if you will. Meaning if the government's not going to do their job, then these stores aren't going to do their job. Now, back in the 90s, I had a similar thing happen like that when I lived over by Sacramento up in the foothills. An auto parts store, he said, hey, the state of California isn't paying their bills, so I'm not going to pay my taxes to the State Board of Equalization. It was admirable. The Sacramento News came up and interviewed him. It was quite a standoff. It was great. I enjoyed it. We could be seeing similar things like this happen, right? The government? Well, if they're not going to be open, then I'm not going to mail in my quarterlies, my taxes, right? Why should we pay them if they're not going to give us the services we demand, that we pay for? It's interesting, but what are the ramifications of this? What are the downstream results? As preppers, how do we think about this development? Now, we haven't had yet a federal government shutdown where people went hog wild and started rioting and looting and beating the shit out of people. We haven't had it yet. But the key word there is yet, and it is a possibility. It is a potential. Right? It's interesting to see the immorality of people who are on welfare that demand to be paid. Now, I'm going to tell you this. If I were on welfare, right, if I were, if I had to live on government support, every penny that they gave me, I would shop for the best deal, the most cost savings, and I would supply myself the best I could for as many months as I could, not just for times like this, right, but so that I could do the very best I could. I'm sure these people go out and screw around with these fucking cards because they rely on it every week, every month. You know, and I'm sorry they have to be there. And there are a lot of great people who are getting government assistance. They need some help. Like a GM factory just shut down because they want to keep factories in other countries open. I can understand that, right? Some people are just in bad, hard times, and I can understand helping them. But for them to come out and march and throw a fit, that is wrong. To scream and yell at the people who are giving you a hand up and not just a hand out, you're going to get mad at them. Many years ago, probably right around 20, right? I was sitting at a gas station. Homeless bum type person came up to my car or truck window and asked for some money. So I reached into the center console on my pickup and I grabbed a handful of change, and the guy got mad. He said, I don't want your change, right? And he kind of like slammed his hand against the car or the truck door and stormed off. And I thought, what a dick. I'm not going to help these people anymore. He expected dollar bills. For what? For taking his precious time and walking over to my truck? Right? That's the entitlement mentality. And that was 20 years ago. And I got to tell you, the homeless people in my area, they're very polite. They are panhandling and doing the best they can. And I feel bad for them. Right? But for these people that come out and say, our welfare cards, we need stuff. Right? That's just phase one of the response to this government shutdown. And Trump threatened to keep the government shut down, for the year? For years with an S? What would that mean? What would that do? Right? The funding that's required, the whole thing is asinine. The way government spends money in the trillions. Trillions, not millions, not billions. It's trillions of dollars that they steal from us and then spend on shit that we don't want. I wouldn't call it stealing if it just went to things that I agreed with. But let's just say that Trump is good to his word and he says, you know what, don't give me that wall, then, we're keeping the government in partial shutdown mode. Non-essentials, right? And I feel bad for the people that are considered non-essential. What a horrible, horrible way for an employer to treat human beings. Now, at my place of work, we don't call anyone non-essential. But that's how government works, does it not? It treats people like a number, like a resource, non-essential and essential. Talk about discrimination. I think all government workers in the federal government should be off until they get their shit together, not just the non-essentials. I heard complaints on the news that the TSA worker, I guess, is non-essential. Isn't that national security, right? If they can violate our rights at an airport the way they do, demanding you to strip down to your socks, bare feet, get some sort of radiation, hitting you, and they don't even tell us how safe they are. Anyways, and I guess maybe they're safe. I haven't seen anyone growing 3 arms out the side of their neck yet. But they can violate our rights, but they're not essential. Or they're not going to get paid. They're required to go to work and not getting paid. That's wrong too. You see, government does everything wrong and immoral that we, as regular citizens, aren't allowed to do. We aren't allowed to do what they do. Right? We can't just send people home with no pay. It's fucking rude, right? Anyways, to continue this line of thought, the airline pilots union has filed a complaint or made a formal complaint or statement saying that the airways are now less safe because TSA, right? They're not doing their job right because of this government shutdown. Well, you know what? They don't need to send a letter to NBC or CBS or ABC. They need to send it to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. That's what they need to do. See, the pressure is on right now. The pressure is on the Democrat Party, and the pressure is on President Trump. Who is going to give in first? Now, typically, any president, regardless of party, is going to give in, right? Because they care about people more than Congress people. I just don't like them. Anyways, in this case, we've got a New Yorker. President Trump, he's a New Yorker. Makes him a bit of a stiff-necked asshole when it comes to politics. New Yorkers are just that way. When they know they're right, they're fucking right. Right? And damn it, you're right. And when you're right, and you're always right. Right? That's how they can be. Right? It doesn't mean they're unreasonable. It just means they know when they're right. And Chuck Schumer, if you watch his body language, you know he is immoral. You know he is a liar. You know he's a hypocrite. And his condescending expression and looks, I don't care for. And I know I can have condescending looks and expressions, but too bad. Anyways, old Chuck Schumer, he can stuff it. But I guess the real upshot for us preppers is this is what government does. They spend money and they fight and they do things in the worst possible ways. They hurt people all along the way with their efforts and with their lack of effort. The government shutdown is a distraction, in my opinion. It's a distraction from what's really going on in this country. It's a part of the problem, but it's such a small part, but is being played in such a grand way that all I will do is call it a distraction. There's more shit going on right now that we need to pay attention to. There's a lot of things going on. As preppers, I'm glad that you guys are with me and that we're talking about this stuff and sharing ideas. But political grandstanding isn't going to fix anything. And, I just see, here's a prediction for you. Trump is not going to give in to these people. And they believe that they have some sort of God-given mandate because they've actually taken over control of the House. So, in my opinion, right, they're not going to give up. And what does Nancy Pelosi give a shit about? Or Dianne Feinstein? Or Adam Schiff? Or Chuck Schumer? What do they care if people go hungry or can't pay their rent? What do they care? They're millionaires and in some cases billionaires. What do they care about the people they represent, supposedly? They don't care. What they care about is their policies, their agenda, right? And I don't see this as a great, communist versus freedom movement. Right, my last video, I think I explained that pretty well. I see this as a left-left paradigm fight. And until Trump does something marvelous, like, arrest Hillary, Comey, Lynch, Obama, right, the Brennan, you start arresting all of these high-level scumbags, but really they're only mid-level managers for the powers that be in the deep state. That would bring me over to the belief that he really does care about this country. Until that day, I'm going to think that Trump is just playing more political games, creating this fight and making it look like it's over something really important. But if we bring in $2 trillion in tax receipts and we have $3.5 trillion in spending, huge deficit, right, an extra $1.5 trillion added on to what they're collecting, I don't care if it's 1.5 or 1.4. Right? They're so close they may as well not matter. Right? And in every case, whether we've had a Democrat or Republican in office, we get more government, more rules, more regulations, more taxes, more restrictions, more violations, more tyranny, more despotism, more lies, more bullshit, more bureaucracy. When that gets turned around in a way that I feel it, not that I hear about, well, they reduced 5 regulations on intercontinental shipping. Who cares? Take the regulations off of everybody and put the restrictions. That would be another one that would impress the fuck out of me. Put restrictions on government. Restrict their power and their authority. See, as people, we have freedoms. They have power and authority. We just have freedoms, and they're taking those away from us, so we have absolutely no shielding or protection from unbridled power and authority in government. And ultimately, this could end up in some sort of giant fight, right? With government shutdowns and riots and martial law here and there and hot spots. That stuff is a possibility, and I'm keeping my eyes peeled, just like you guys are, and I'm glad. I've been getting texts all day. John, what's going on? John, what's going to happen? Right? This is what I think, and sharing information, ideas, insights with me, and I appreciate it. So you guys be cool. Have a great day today. Let's see what happens. Let's see if good old Nancy, wide awake Nancy, let's see if she actually goes to the White House and accepts that she's nothing more than the representative from one district, acting as the Speaker of the House, and should be looking out for the interests of the entire nation and not just her political constituents. And that goes for Republicans as well. It's not about your constituents from your districts. It's about thinking about our country, thinking about the rule of law in our Constitution. That's what matters. And it would be nice to hear more politicians act as well as sound like statesmen and actually put the nation, our freedoms first. But that's against their agenda, so don't hold your breath. You guys be cool. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. I'll talk to you tomorrow.